Greetings, salutations, and hi, I'm Try. I'm hoping to have learned a lesson. I received my first dislike on the last video. I think that went probably a little long. However, today, this should be a lot easier and shorter. I'm not going to do the freaking history lesson I did last time. Yeah, I rambled too much. Today, I'm going to cover what is memory. I don't remember. Yes, I overused that joke. One day I'll think of something better. Until then, yeah. I actually chose to go against wearing the insufficient memory t-shirt this time. Essentially, memory is anything that stores data. So when you think conventionally, this is normally what we think of as memory, or the laptop version over here. Sticks that have little chips that store data that your CPU uses because it doesn't have the plethora of RAM. As I mentioned in the previous one, you have cache RAM, another form of memory, that stores the instructions that the CPU needs to do its job. Well, this is usually like 1 megabyte or so on older CPUs. More modern ones you can get, at least on Intel, you're probably looking like 20, 24 megs ish. Probably a bit more. I haven't kept up on that one. On AMD, you can get like 32 megs, 64 megs, depending on if you're going X3D, if you're going server side. Genoa is ridiculous. However, you kind of cap out at a certain point. It's the little bit of really fast RAM that's on the CPU. So, to perform its instructions, store data and whatnot, they created random access memory, RAM. There's also read-only memory, which is more storage. That's like your sort of SSD sort of thing. Or its bigger brother, if I can get the thing picked up again. Something like this. Again, probably not exactly accurate, but it's close. As I was mentioning in the previous one, if I can get it out, 2 gig DDR4. It does exist. I just had to do that one. The DDR, as I said in the previous video, is basically a ranking of speed. Where you had SDR, or single data rate, means one stream of data going back and forth. Dual data rate, or double data rate, it's your highway, or your standard road. You can also get quad, but I think that's more like in your video card, which is out of reach. When you're looking at what you need for RAM, modern days, you're more or less going, it dropped, DDR4 or better. Modern systems, they'll use a slot that, as I said with the CPU thing, is a slot that has a little notch or little plug in it that'll be keyed so you can only put a certain type of memory in. Let's see here, pick up thing at DDR3, you'll see the notches are in different places. Turn it around, they look close, but they're still offset. This way you can't put DDR3 in a DDR4 board without breaking something. And the fact that you can come close to breaking it meant you overdid it. Fairly simple. Different types that we have are the different revisions. So DDR1, DDR2, DDR3. They will have a series of speeds, like I said with that other stick that I said existed when I called it DDR4 or DDR1 400, means it ran at 200 megahertz times 2. Almost all of your clock speeds for DDR based memory is going to use that math equation. So when you pick up DDR5 6000, it's not. It's 3000 times 2. But manufacturers don't want to say it that way. This is why they say megatransfers instead of megahertz. It would also be accurate to say like megabits possibly, or megabytes, depending on if the flow of data is about the same. Marketing is an idiot when it comes to that. When you pick up your SSD, and do I have this upside down? Yes, I do. When it says 512 gigs of data, and you format it and you find out it's like 400 and some odd, I think it's, if you have a 500, it'll be like 462 or 465, somewhere's in there, because the computing world is divisible by 8 thanks to binary. Again, that's the on-off thing, but it's done in chunks of 8. So you'll see like 11110011 sort of thing. Because it does that chunks of 8, that is your byte. If you're doing just a singular unit, it is a bit. Incidentally, it is actually a computing term, but I don't think I've heard it since college, that 4 bits is a nibble. Fun fact. Only useful for trivia. Like most of this. Now, when you're looking at memory and you're wondering, okay, you just rambled off a whole bunch of stuff. What are the important details? Okay, when you're thinking like storage memory, this is like your SSD, even your hard drives are still in this category. This is more your computer's long-term memory, when you have to store things for an indefinite amount of time. Your pictures, your games, your operating system, anything important that needs to be saved goes to storage memory. Over time, they've just stopped calling it memory. They just call it storage. But it's still essentially the same thing. Thumb drives, another perfect example. It's amazing what I've got sitting around my desk. And it's amazing how much of it is Micro Center. I'm not sponsored. I haven't gotten there yet. Um, happens to be Inland, also Micro Center. You will find this all around me. I'm not sponsored. I pay for my stuff. Oh, do I pay for it? There's your read-only chip. It's programmed once, it does a specific function. I knew I had an example of that. Sorry for detouring, but you clicked on this video. If you've been here long enough, you knew what you were in for. So, memory is a method of storing bits and data. Storage memory is for long term. Your RAM and whatnot is short term. When you turn off your computer or you hit the reset button, provided your computer still has that, this will clear. When the electrical flow stops, the chips just go, I don't remember. It's built in Alzheimer's. Oof. Ouch. I'm sorry if that sounded cruel. I do more thinking after I've said it, and my brain actually just said, you idiot, you've said that? Yes I did. But it's essentially the same idea. Turn off the power, the chips on the board no longer store anything, so it just flushes. And actually that is a term, a memory flush, actually, to drive out any data that's there. Apparently on cache RAM it's harder to do, at least on the Windows side. Linux has a method. Go figure. That's why you don't have to reboot as much. So, almost 13 minutes in. Yeah, let's give you just a little bit. Alright. In the last, say, 15 years, we started out, we went from DDR2 to DDR3, and we noticed a nice speed bump, of course, when you're going from like DDR2 400, which also was known as PC2, I believe it was 4200, was your slowest form of DDR2, and was very rare. The most common you would have found DDR2 800, so that was the 400 times 2. You moved up to DDR3. That started, there's claims of DDR3 800. I have never seen it. The slowest I've ever seen was 1066. So 533 times 2. That got up to, I believe it was, do I still have them? Haha, I do. And it's memory with a vengeance. These was a form of RAM that was overclockable, uses a method called XMP, or Extreme Memory Profile. The AMD side, I don't remember the meaning, but it was DOCP. But it was a method of taking DDR3 1600 and making it whatever your printed values were. This happens to be 2400, so 12 by 2. At the time, kind of expensive. only 16 gigs of RAM when you pair them. Remember that dual channel thing I mentioned also in the CPU video? So yeah. That's why kits of like DDR, actually from DDR2 and on, almost always come as a kit of 2, because you get a speed bump by pairing. Never been sure why like a single stick doesn't do it, but right, left, there you go. Put them away before I forget, and then have to clean my desk. I'll probably be doing that anyway. So there you go. I hope I've given you a good idea of what memory is. If not, I probably forgot something. More than likely, yeah. Good chance. If you want to understand memory to like an ungodly degree, I would look up a guy named Bill Zoid. Sometimes partners with Gamers Nexus. He does informational on like what are called RAM timings. This is when you see like DDR3 3600 CL something, cast latency, which is basically the amount of time it takes, I believe, for it to go from CPU to memory and back again. Don't hold me to that. I just know the lower that number is, the better. Usually rated in, I think, nanoseconds. But that number's been increasing over the years. You could get like, on DDR1, you could get like ratings, I think it'd be like 224. DDR2, you'd probably get your best bet at like, try and think this one through. Probably something like 8.8, possibly 10. The third number will always be bigger. I'm going to look at DDR3. I have it, so this stick in particular is got a cast latency of 11, and the other timings are like 13, 13, 21. I'm not going to get into what those are. I do not want another 2-hour video. More so, I don't think you want to hear me ramble for 2 hours. Nobody deserves that. Now, there's a layer of hell that is me doing stand-up comedy. There's a few of you who already have earned that. And you have no vegetables to throw at me. So. Okay. As we're edging up on like actually we've crossed 19 minutes, so I'm going to say we should be good here. Basically, you have to know what the RAM of your system is. If it was within the last 4 years, chances are you're running DDR5. If it was in between that and probably 2015, 2014, you're probably using DDR4. Earlier than that, you're using DDR3, and prior to that, unless you're doing retro computing, you shouldn't be using it. because I don't think anything using DDR3 is within the Windows 11 grouping, and Microsoft doesn't want you using Windows 10 anymore. Come October, that's going to happen. But that's a later video at some point when I talk about operating systems. Be prepared. That could be a doozy, but I'm not going to go as heavy-handed. I'm not going to give history lessons. I'll admit that was dumb on my part. The fact that someone took the time to reply with a comment that was 2 poo emojis says somebody gave 2 shits enough to tell me to shut up. I'm not letting that one go. That was just... When I saw the 2 of them... Dude, thank you. Yeah, you may have been that dislike. I thought it was funny as hell. I deserved it. I'll admit it. I rambled way too long on that one. So, with this one, my goal was to stay under 25 minutes, and it looks like I've achieved it. If you enjoyed putting up with my rambling, and this was informative, cool, leave a like. If I'm still an idiot and rambling too much, or I didn't give you what you needed, do the other thing. Leave a comment. Tell me what I did wrong. This is a learning process. I'm still new at it. I eliminated my first 4 videos because they sucked even more. I think these talking heads are probably going to be a bit better because it's something that you can just listen to in the background. You don't actually have to watch me. Yes, I have props, but just the listening, as I tried to make it simple enough for you to get. That's the important detail. And whoa, I just peeked there. I'm sorry. However, until next time, well, remember, some of your vegetables are good, but if you don't eat your meat, you can't have the pudding. That goes for you vegetarians and vegans. No pudding for you, period. And I'm not going to get into the offshoots. If you're in that group, you people have called me evil for years. I remember this. I have good long-term storage. You eat seeds, nuts, the unborn children of plants. Who's the real villain? And until next time, fare thee well.